Good morning once again, and welcome back in part 2. And here I'm in stanza 9. What it says, then she took a tiny scrape of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as wafer, but she couldn't part it with that. A scrape means a small amount. So the third time she took a very small amount of dough and rolled it. The poet says that she rolled and rolled to lay emphasis on the fact that she rolled the dough and made it very thin like a wafer and baked it. But she was greedy that she couldn't give that thin piece of bread to Saint also. You can just imagine about her misery. So for she said, my cakes that seem too small, when I eat of them myself, are yet too large to give away. So she put them on the shelf. Here means this stanza, the woman reasoned that when she ate the cakes, she felt that they were very small, but if she had to give them to someone, she felt that they were too big to be given away. So, this type of thinking should not have a human being. She put all the cakes on the shelf of her kitchen and she did not give any cake to Saint Peter. So, now let's come in stanza 11. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and pained, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. Provoke means to cause to get angry. So Saint Peter became very angry, he was very hungry, and he was feeling very weak, and selfish woman was not ready to give him even a small cake. So this behavior of greedy women angered the saint. Now in next stanza, and he said, you are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter and fire to keep you warm. He means to say that Saint Peter cursed श्राप दिया उन्हें. Cursed, dwell means to live. So Saint Peter cursed the woman and said that she was very selfish, she did not deserve to live like a human being. He added that God had given her food, shelter, fire to keep warm, but she had become selfish for all the resources she had, and she did not want to share them with anybody. So in next stanza, now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in hard dry wood. Scanty means very little, and boring meaning make a hole in something with the tool boring. Okay, bore karna, make a hole in something. So Saint Peter cursed the woman that hence she would become a bird because she did not deserve the human form, and she shall become bird, and just like birds build their house by boring into the wood and collect very little food by working hard the entire day. Similarly, she would also work hard in the dry wood all day and get little food and make a small make a small place for herself to live. So like that, then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. So from that time, what happened, as soon as Saint Peter cursed the woman, she did not get a chance to speak for herself, because that very moment, means at the same time, very moment she flew up to the roof through the chimney and flew out in the form of a bird, and Saint Peter cursed had converted the woman into a bird. So in the last, she had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same, but all rest of her clothes were burnt, black as coal in the flame. Okay, so when the woman turned into a bird, at that time she was wearing a red colored cap on her head, and this was there on the bird's head also. So, but the woman's remaining clothes had burned and turned black in color, just like coal. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in trees till this very day, and boring for food. Country here means, meaning of country is belonging to the countryside in rural areas. So people who live in countryside, even the small children who go to school, seen this kind of bird of woods, and they see that she stays there all day and keeps on digging the wood with her beak, so to collect her food. And whenever any child sees this kind of bird, then his elders tell him this story. So they say that bird used to be a woman earlier. She was very greedy, and so she was cursed by Saint Peter and turned into a bird. They get teaching that they should not be greedy, means to their children. So throughout this poem you will get a message that you should not be greedy. And what is this to tell about? The poem is a legend about an old lady who angered Saint Peter because of her greed. The story goes on like this. And one day Saint Peter was preaching around the world and reached the door of a cottage where this woman lived, and she was making cakes and baking them on a hearth. So Saint Peter was fainting with hunger. He asked the lady to give him a piece of cake. So the cake that she was baking then appeared to be uh, too big. So she did not give him that, and instead she begged another smaller one. So that also appeared to be very big. So she did not give him that also. The second time she baked yet another smaller cake, but found it too big to give away. So in the third attempt, she took an extremely little scrap of dough and rolled it flat, and she had it as thin as wafer, but was unable to part with that also. So this angered uh, Saint Peter, angered a lot, and he said that she was not fit to live in human form and enjoy food and warmth. So he cursed her and transformed her into a woodpecker bird, and who had to bore in hard dry wood to get its scanty food. So she can be seen in the trees all day during, and always boring the dry wood for her food. Okay, so this is all about this poem. I expect you would have understood. Thank you. Have a nice day.